Surinduni Kataragama 2021, the final procession. Live telecast from ancient Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Dewalaya premises.
කප්පර කන්ද නදී ධරණියේ වූ මේ ස්වාධීන රාජධානිය වඩාත් උත්කෘෂ්ටයට පත්වන්නේ සත සහස්‍ර නාමධාරී කඳ සුරිඳුන්ගේ දිව්‍ය තේජානුභාවය නිසාවෙනි. සොලී බලය බිම්පත් කොට ලක් දෙරණ එක්සේසත් කළ දුටුගැමුණු නරපතීන් කඳ සුරිඳුන්ට වූ භාරයක් වෙනුවෙන් මේ රන්කොත් මාලිගය ඉදිකොට ඉරහඳ පවත්නාතුරා පුදසත්කාර ඉටු කරන්නට 555ක් ප්‍රවේණි රාජකාරීන් නිල නියම කොට ගම්බිම් දෙවා වදාළ වග ඉතිහාස වංශ කතාවේ දැක්වේ. එදා මෙදාතුර අවිච්චින්නව පැවතෙන සිරිත් සම්මතයන් සුරකෙන මේ විසල් පුදබිම බොදුනුවන්ගේද ආදිවාසී ඇත්තන්ගේද හින්දූන්ගේද ඉස්ලාම් බැතිමතුන්ගේද වන්දනීය වූත් පූජනීය වූත් පින්බිමකි. රුහුණු රට මිනිකිරුල සදිසි වූ රුහුණු මහා කතරගම දේවාලයේ වාර්ෂිකව පැවැත්වෙන පෙරහර මංගල්‍යයද තෙදැති කඳ සුරිඳුන්ගේ ආශිර්වාදය ප්‍රාර්ථනා කෙරෙන සංස්කෘතික පූජෝපහාරයකි. එයිනුදු අවසන් පෙරහර මහා මංගල්‍යය විවිධ ජාතීන්ගේද විවිධ සංස්කෘතීන්ගෙන්ද විවිධ සම්ප්‍රදායන්ගෙන්ද ඒකාත්මික වූ මහා සංස්කෘතික පෙළහරකි. මේ එවන් උත්තම පූජා පරිහාරය නෙත්පුරා දැක සිත් පහන් උපදවා සුරිඳුනි කතරගම රැක දෙනු මැනවි සැම යන ප්‍රාර්ථනයට එක්වන්නට කෙරෙන පූජනීය ඇරයුමයි.
You are now joining in with the live broadcast of the Surinduni Kataragama 2021, the final Perahara procession of the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Dewala Asala Perahara Festival 2021.
The ceremonial Tasker Vasana is now going through the customaries of Vatabandima or mounting the godly throne on the Tasker of God Kataragama along with the Salu Palandavima or the ceremonial dressing up of the Tasker.
This is a collaborative task by the trustees of the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Dewalaya, led by the Chief Trustee Mr. Somipala T. Ratnayaka and the Chief Perahera Official or the Perahera Balanarala, Mr. Sarath Sepalekanayaka.
Pirit will be enchanted in the main shrine of God Kataragama by the chief incumbent of the Kirivehera Raja Mahavihara and the chief prelate of the Ruhunu Magam Venerable Kobavaka Dammindathero, along with the chief incumbent of the Abhinavaramu temple and chief judicial prelate of the Ruhunu Magam Pattuwa Venerable Kapugama Sarnatissathero.
Upon the notice of the Maha Nilame, the Basnayaka Nilame will then step out of the Basnayaka Valauva and walk with his army of ushers to the main shrine of God Kataragama.
The officials will seek blessings from the shrine and now God Kataragama will be respectfully carried towards the ceremonial tusker amidst rains of flowers, enchanted water and fragrant scent.
The ceremonial tusker, Basnayaka Nilame, and the rest of the procession will then head towards the Kirivehera Rajamahavihara.
The auspicious moment of placing the relic casket on the ceremonial tusker of the Kirivehera Rajamahavihara will be now led by the priests and Basnayaka Nilame.
The ceremonial tusker would be the majestic tusker Kandula, belonging to the historic Kalaniya Rajamahavihara.
The speciality of the final procession in this Asala festival is that today we also see the addition of the Perahara of the Kirivehera Raja Mahaviharaya in the main procession.
The Basnayaka Nilame, along with the procession, will reach the Kirivehera Stupa and seek blessings with the offering of flowers.
Namami dhammang sugatena desitang sattha sada hontu sukhiya vera kayodhi guccho sakalo dugando gachanti sabbe maranang ahanche. එදා දුටුගැමුණු රජතුමන් විසින් ආරම්භ කරන්නට යෙදුණු මේ ඓතිහාසික රුහුණු කතරගම මහා දේවාලය එදා මෙදා තුර මේ ඓතිහාසික පුරවරයේදී කිසිම හේතුවක් නිසා නොනවත්වා නොකඩවා අවිච්ඡින්නව වසර 2000 ගණනක් මේ පුදබිම තුල මේ චාරිත්‍ර වාරිත්‍ර සිද්ධ කරන්නට යෙදුණා. දුටුගැමුණු රජතුමන් විසින් මේ රන්කොත් මාලිගාව ඉදි කරලා කතරගම දෙවියන්ට වැඩ සිටින්නට ආරාධනා කරලා එදා ඒ ආරම්භ කරන්නට යෙදුණු පූජා විධි සියල්ලක්ම මේ දක්වාම ඒ ආකාරයෙන් සිද්ධ කරගෙන යනු ලබන. මොන කරදර ආවත් මොන වසංගත ආවත් මොන බලවේග ආවත් කිසිම හේතුවක් නිසා නොනවත්වා නොකඩවා අවිච්ඡින්නව වසර 2000 ගණනක් මේ චාරිත්‍ර වාරිත්‍ර සියල්ලක්ම මේ පුරවරයේදී සිදු කරන්නට යෙදුණා.
2021 වසරේ රුහුණු මහා කතරගම දේවාලයේ ඇසල මංගල්‍ය පැවැත්වීමට අපට සිදු වී ඇත්තේ විශාල අභියෝග ඒ වගේම ලෝකවාසී සියලු ජනයා වෙත මහත් ව්‍යසනයකට මුහුණ දී සිටින අවස්ථාවක ඒ කොරෝනා ව්‍යසනයේ හමුවේ සුවිශේෂී ක්‍රම යොදා ගනිමින් ඒ වගේම සෞඛ්‍යාංශ අප වෙත ලබා දුන් ඒ මාර්ගෝපදේශ පිළිපදිමින් ඉතාමත් අකමැත්තෙන් වුවත් බැතිමතුන්ගෙන් තොරව මෙම පෙරහැර මංගල්‍ය පැවැත්වීමට ලැබීම ඉමහත් කනගාටුවක්.
Religious observances took place at the Kirivehera, which was led by the chief incumbent of the Kirivehera Raja Mahaviharaya, which was followed by the Rajasana Katava of the speech of the throne by the Basnayaka Nilame. This was indeed a special occasion for the newly appointed Basnayaka Nilame, Mr. Dishan Gunasekara, as it was his first Perahara with his appointment as the Basnayaka Nilame of the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Dewalaya.
The first item in today's Perahara, just like in any other procession, would be the whip crackers.
The thundering noise created by the whip wielders are used to alarm the audience that the Perahara is approaching.
Just as a mean of punishment, this technique of communication had been used during the times of ancient rulers to notify their citizens that the king is coming forth. Tradition still continues with this royalty of kings being metaphorically matched to the gods instead.
The whip wielders in today's procession are representations from the city of Kataragama.
Next up, we see the fire acrobats or guinea baller in the procession.
Worshipping the gods of fire is a tradition in South Indian culture, where god Kataragama is believed to have a close affair with fire, which is why this performance can also be witnessed in Indian traditions.
Interestingly, according to Sinhalese literature, god Kataragama is considered to be the patron to create balls of fire.
Isn't it quite fascinating to note how the same performance stands into different meanings in two different places in the country, where in other processions, fire symbolizes rain, but in the Kataragama Asala Perahara, it signifies an offering of fire to the gods.
Various styles and patterns are created by these talented performers who are from Kataragama itself. And it must be noted that these artists are trained since childhood through generations.
God Kataragama is considered as the god of war, and the color red is considered as a symbolic color, which would be why we are seeing most of these performers in the color red. Another difference that we can notice in this particular act is that these fire acrobats perform to the music of a fusion of Indo-Western tunes, whereas in other processions there is no music intended.
Now we see participants of Sri Lanka Air Force who carry stands comprising of the sun and the moon along with national flags.
The sun and moon symbolizes that the Perahera must be held in its authentic tradition till the eternal existence of the sun and moon.
This is the first traditional orchestra that we see in today's procession, which is the Sabaragamu Hevisi troupe represented from Ratnapura.
Hevisi can be identified as a main form of traditional music which is segregated among the three main variants of traditional performing arts, which are upcountry, low country and Sabaragamu. And the performance in front of us is of the Sabaragamu variant, which is endemic to the regions of Ratnapura, Kuruvita and Balangoda.
The costumes of both upcountry and Sabaragamu Hevisi performances are quite similar to each other, where the difference is noted from the headgear, which is a simple white cloth turban. And now we see the national flag being carried, and it is followed by the statue of King Dutugamunu.
In front of us is one of the recent additions to the Kataragama Asala Perahera, which, as told, was the statue of King Dutugamunu that is presented by the Sri Abhinavarama Vihara of Kataragama.
King Dutugamunu is considered as the founder of the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Dewalaya, who had held the command that this Perahera festival must be held till the eternal existence of the sun and moon, while assigning generations of trustees which are still compliant to the tradition.
We now see the traditional orchestra that we see in today's procession, which is the upcountry style Hevisi troupe, represented from Sri Asuranada Kalapadanama.
There are many situational variants of Hevisi, such as the Kemmura, Yama and Puja, to name a few, which all comprise of their
The costumes of both upcountry and Sabaragamu Hevisi performances are quite similar to each other, where the difference is noted from the headgear, which in here is a sophisticated white turban.
And now we see the ceremonial tasker carrying the Perahera relic casket of the Kataragama Kiri Vehara Raja Mahavihara.
And this noble duty is delegated this year to the majestic tasker Kandula belonging to the chief incumbent of the Kalaniya Rajamaha Viharaya, Venerable Kollupitiye Mahinda Sangarakita Thero.
The group of devotees that we see now are walking in the procession now with the symbolic Velayudaya.
These are the ones who took part in the fire walking ceremony that was held early dawn on the 12th day of the festival.
And now we see another spectacular item. This is a Kavadi performance.
Devotees believe that releasing energy is an act that satisfies God Kataragama. Therefore, fast tempo dancing mixed with the Indo-Western music creates an buzzing atmosphere throughout the year in Kataragama.
The semicircle-shaped wooden prop held by these performers, which has a peacock feathers attached to the end, symbolize a hillock which resembles an incident from the legend of Lord Shiva.
And that team was Rohana Bhakti Kavadi of Kataragama. And now we see pictures of the second Tusker in today's Perahara, and this is Buruma Raja, who belongs to the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables.
And now we see another beautiful performance of Malpadaya dance. This dance act we see is represented by Ravinetra Kalayatanaya.
The Malpadaya is a Sabaragamu style dance act which uses the coconut flower of Polmal as the main prop, which is an icon symbolizing prosperity and fertility. This different dance act is Shudra Matra, hailing from the low country style, and is presented today by the Sri Darshana Kalayatanaya.
Shuddha Matra is Shuddha Matra is distinguished as a low country dance, unique to the regional variant of Matara, and is originally from the Sunyam healing ritual.
The word Shuddha Matra means pure movements, and this is the very first complete dance act any amateur low country dancer would learn right after mastering the basics.
And now we see a Monara Devi dance. This dance act, known as the Peacock Dance, is quite another symbolically special dance act to Kataragama Dewala Perahara that is performed by the Ekamuthu Kalayatanaya of Bibila.
Every Hindu god is believed to have their own mount, and the peacock is the mount of god Kataragama. In fact, there is a legend which says that the particular peacock who is seen as a mount of god Kataragama was in fact a defeated demon who was mercifully spared by God and then had pledged God Kataragama to serve as his mount.
A special feature of this particular dance performance is the use of a big prop that symbolizes the actual figure of a peacock, which adds a realistic appearance to this peacock dance.
The tusker right in front of us is none other than the leader of the elephant stable of the Sri Dalada Maligava, who is none other than Indiraja. Indiraja too is a tusker who is of South Indian origin, where he was gifted to Sri Lanka in the year 1989 by the former Prime Minister of India, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi.
And now we see the Varankavi dance. This dance is presented by Bandara Rangayatanaya in Ruhunu.
This act comprises of performers who sing godly praises towards the gods including Natha, Vishnu, Kataragama and Pattini to seek permission, and this is sung while dancing.
Another notable factor about this dance is the headgear. This headgear represents the traditional costume worn by ancient performers.
Vadiga Patuna is the dance act which we see in these pictures, which is presented today by the Minsanda Kalayatanaya.
The performers in this dance act impersonate Brahmins who came to Sri Lanka from the state of Vadiga in India.
The cultural speciality of this dance performance is that it is presented in the Sunyam healing ritual, which involves a lot of steps.
This dance act, titled as the Nagaraksha dance, is quite different to the previous acts due to its use of facial props that is used in the low country style of Sri Lankan dancing.
This is a dance performance that is considered as a dance of entertainment, performed under the Kolam Nati technique of low country dancing.
There are 12 different Raksha masks that are used in this entertainment act, and some of them are Naga, Gurulu and Ginidal, to name a few.
This Nagaraksha dance was presented by Karunadasa Oloboduwa Kalayatanaya.
The main prop of this dance is the Panterua, and this is an upcountry dance performance presented by the Sri Asurananda Kala Padanama.
The main prop of this dance act is the Pantheruva, which is in fact the anklet of goddess Pattini. And according to some other legends, this can be also considered as the Chakrayudaya of god Vishnu.
This is one of the important instruments used in the Kavikaramadura or chamber of versifiers of Sri Dalada Maligava.
This elephant is the youngest participant in today's Perahera and his name is Tarindu, who belongs to the chief incumbent of the Kirivehera Raja Mahavihara of Kataragama, Venerable Kobavaka Damminda Thero.
What we see now is another performance of a peacock dance.
This is the second peacock dance which we are seeing in today's Perahera procession, which is presented by the Rantaru Kalayatanaya.
Unlike the previous dance, this act is similar to the South Indian version of Mailattam that is seen in the Indian state of Kerala and Tamil Nadu, which does not use a flocked prop, but instead uses the natural human body movements to depict the moves of the peacock, who is a special bird in the faith of god Kataragama.
It can be agreed that the glittering shades of blue, green and yellow that are used in these costumes does nothing but adds more and more glamour to this colorfully diverse procession.
The peacock is a bird that is very commonly noticed in this part of Ireland.
Carrying such a heavy prop and dancing in this procession is no easy deed, but it just turns out easy for their supreme devotion towards God Kataragama.
As said before, the Kataragama Asala Perahera is a celebration of variety of local and South Indian genres of dancing. And this act in front of us, presented by the Rannamayura Kalayatanaya, is known as the Kohomba Kalaya dance.
The significant prop in this particular dance performance are the tiers of pots, which all consist of a heap of neem leaves known as kohomba in Sinhalese. Neem is a native herbal plant to Sri Lanka, which is considered as a plant of high value with health benefits for many diseases.
Balancing this collection of props with the head, with no use of hands, is indeed a difficult task. But with training and practice, these performers give out their best presentation as respect to God Kataragama.
we see another majestic tusker whose name is Singharaja, and he too belongs to Sri Dalada Maliga, who is one of the 3 tuskers that visited this spiritually blessed city all the way from Kandy.
What we see now is the Asne dance performance. This upcountry dance act is known as Udaratna Asne, and it is presented by Ranga Kalayatana of Tharaniyagala.
Udarata Asne is one of the main dance performances in the traditional Pohumba Kankariya healing ritual, which is in fact also the founding ritual of the elegant Sri Lankan West dance.
The verses sung by these performances relate the lamentation of Queen Queni, which connects this procession to a different angle in history.
The said stanzas are believed to be hailing from the kingdom of Dambadeniya.
The Savarang dance is what we see now, and it is presented by the Siriman Kalayatana, which symbolically depicts fanning the gods.
The savarang is a fanning tool used to fab the novelty in the past. This savarang is made out of the tail of the Semara deer who is said to live in the Himalayas. And this gentle little elephant we see now is Asela, who belongs to chief incumbent of the Sri Abhinavarama Viharaya, Venerable Kapugama Saranatissa Thero.
Following the majestic beast, we see now a Thelme dance performance.
And this Thelme dance act is presented today by the officials of the Sri Lanka Police. This is one of the main episodes of the Dewalaya and can also be seen in the Gammaduwa dance ritual, which belongs to the Raigam regional variant of the low country style of dancing. It is interesting to see how the low country drum, also known as a yak burial, provides an interesting tune to the low country dancers in this pageant today.
Indeed, Nilesh, anyone would agree that this style of dance is one of the most attractive pieces of dance of the low country style of dancing.
And this smart elephant, not known to many, is the junior elephant of the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Dewalaya, whose name is Maddu.
What we see now is a troupe of Kandyan West dancing. The West dancer is adorned with a traditional costume that represents the royal regalia of Malaya kings. These dancers have proven themselves worthy of the West Tattoo or the West headgear by a number of tests.
Another special sight is the indigenous people of Sri Lanka, or the Adivasi people, presenting their respect to God Kataragama in their authentic style.
In fact, the legend of God Kataragama has a close tie with the indigenous people of Sri Lanka, since his Sri Lankan consort Valliamma is of indigenous origin, whereas the tradition still continues to celebrate the life of God Kataragama and Vallimata.
Ahead of the ceremonial tusker, we see the Honorable Basnayaka Nilame, Mr. Dishan Gunasekara, who is the newly appointed custodian for the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Dewalaya, and he is accompanied by the secretarial custodian, who is the Mahabet Menilame. We are now close to witness the grand spectacle of the final Asala Perahera of the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Dewalaya, the flower-adorned ceremonial Tuska Vasana, carrying God Kataragama in his noble march.
The ceremonial tusker is also preceded by the Alatiyammas, who are in fact the maids of God Kataragama.
The ceremonial tusker today is the chief Vasana himself, who belongs to the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Dewalaya. He was gifted to the shrine in the year 1978 by the former Minister of Civil Aviation and Ports, Mrs. Wimala Kannangara. Vasana is a continuous title holder of this position for more than a decade of years in his graceful majesty.
The sight of Vasana dressed with grand garments and flowers, scented with enchanted waters and scented with fragrant smoke amidst the chants of Harohara simply presents the devotion and respect God Kataragama is being showered from the lay devotees in the island.
This site does not mark the end of the procession. The ceremonial tusker, along with the Perahara, will head to the shrine of Walli Mata for a special ceremony which illustrates the love story between god Kataragama and his Sri Lankan consort Walli Mata, as you will see in the pictures further.
ඉෂ්ට සිද්ධ වෙනවා. ඉන් අනතුරුව වල්ලි මාතා දේවාල පරිශ්‍රය සිට මහා දේවාල පරිශ්‍රය කරා දෙවි හාමුදුරන් වැඩම කරවීම සිද්ධ වෙනවා. අපි සූදානම් වෙන්නේ මේ මොහොතේ සජීවීව වල්ලි මාතා දේවාලයේ පැවැත්වෙන පූජා චාරිත්‍රයන් සමග එක්වන්නට.
මේ පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයේදී සංකේතවත් කරනවා. අද මේ අවසාන පෙරහැර මහා මංගල්‍යයත් රුහුණු මහා කතරගම වල්ලි මාතා දේවාලයට සම්ප්‍රාප්ත වන්නේ ඒ ඓතිහාසික සිදුවීම සංකේතවත් කරමින්. බලති කතරගම දෙවි හාමුදුරුවන් උදෙසා වාර්ෂිකව පවත්වනු ලබන මේ මහා පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයේ අවසන් මහා පෙරහැර වල්ලි මාතා දේවාලයේදී ඉටුවන විශේෂ පොදු පූජාවන්ගෙන් අනතුරුව මහා දේවාලය වෙත ගමන් කිරීමෙන් සත්වගට සෙත සලසනවා.